At Quahog Honda and Subarus, we got Hondas and Subarus. Hey young world, coming to you once again is the illustrious Reese, the beautiful black beast of the Southeast, joined with my charismatic co-host,
Marvin.
And we're coming to you with another edition of Reese and Marvin Reviews for you! Alright, we're just getting back from watching Spider-Man Far Away From Home, the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming. So I guess they're going with this whole home thing. What is that all about? I don't know, I have mixed feelings about this one. At the beginning, I wasn't really feeling it, man. I recall watching the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon back in the 90s. And that was pretty much my basis for Spider-Man. And it was amazing. Yeah, of course it was amazing. That was in the title. But I always enjoyed it. I thought it was an excellent show. And when I saw that they were doing Far Away From Home, I watched the trailers on TV. I had very low expectations. I was like, what are they doing here? I didn't really like the whole ideal of them leaving the country and what have you, because so much goes on in New York during the regular Spider-Man series. And like, you really gotta leave the country to have, things happening. And then I said, the villain that you're going with. See, I know they're using some of the B villains in this new series of Spider-Man. Because I'm like, the Vulture wasn't really one of the more popular villains in the comics nor the Amazing Spider-Man series. And Mysterio, I mean, Jesus Christ, he might have got one episode. And then I thought he was kind of lame back then. It got to the second act of the movie and then, I started to change my mind because even on the commercials, when I seen them using these streams of green smoke, I was like, that looks like such a lame power, and it wasn't exciting at all. I knew he did all these things with illusions. I was like, and that's not what we're seeing in the commercial. But I guess that was the smoke screen, as it were. They showed the practical use of his abilities, and it wasn't anything mystic. They were just using technology to use holograms to make these illusions to confuse you and befuddle you in a way that, it really screws up your senses. And I thought they were really good with that.
I didn't even see the first one, the Homecoming, I believe. I had no interest because I'm tired of, how many times they gonna switch Spider-Man, and I just had no interest. And then I'm like, after how many superhero movies we gonna do? I mean, it's by the numbers at this point. Like, what are they really gonna do different? So I can kind of understand why we want to choose a different villain this time, because we don't see X amount of Spider-Man movies, so we're going to have to start bringing in some different people. So I was cool with that. But then when I started seeing this guy on the screen, I'm like, oh, Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm just like, here we go again. Somebody else taking that check. Got to get that Marvel money. Mm-hmm. And so he's okay as an actor. I don't have a problem with him as an actor. But when I first saw the trailer, and I'm like, well, it looked like it got him kind of good. And then I remember this show. And then this time I said, I'm going to do a little research on the character, Mysterio itself, because I have no idea what the true origins is. So I found some guy on YouTube. I can't remember. If I remember, I'll tell Maurice to put a link in the description. But anywho, so I saw his original, his origin in the comic book. And so as I'm watching the movie and I see it, and I'm kind of pissed because I'm like, once again, this is not his true origin. This is not necessarily his true powers. And that's kind of throwing me off. That mixed with I'm kind of feeling like the movie's really geared towards kids. And I'm like, I'm not really feeling the dialogue. I'm not feeling the jokes. I'm like, it's really aimed towards family friendly kind of stuff. And I honestly, in the first act and in the first half of the second act, I'm like, yo, this is absolute trash. Absolute trash. And I'm like, in the comic book, this guy, he's so athletic. He's a stunt man is what he is, and he uses tricks and powers and stuff. And they did keep that the same, where he trying to mystify people and do illusions, but more of his background was because he was a stuntman, and he was actually trying to frame. He was actually pretending to be Spider-Man, and he was robbing banks and doing things of this nature so the people could hate Spider-Man, and then he was gonna come in and beat him and save the day. that's what his origins was in the comics. So when I see them, but again, Marvel try to link all the movies, which I think that's cool to a certain degree. But then here we go again, they tying it in, so it makes sense. Well, he used to be an employee of Tony Stark's. They upset with Tony Stark's. But I kind of feel like what they did with this was the same thing they did with Iron Man 3, where the guy was upset at Tony because he crapped on his project. And that was sort of the same thing that they did with Mysterio and his team's reason for being upset, and with Tony Stark in this one, which, they synced this one. Everybody's mourning the loss of Tony, and everybody looking up for Tony and who's going to be the next Iron Man. And that's where we going with that. So the first half of the movie, I really wasn't feeling that at all.
So it's basically a recycled plot line.
Yeah, in a sense. But what the hell can they do new at this point if they're not mirroring exactly what they did in the comics? And then sometimes they try to implement these fresh ideas, and you're pissing off half the crowd or the true fans, and or absolute end up crap. So it's like they're in a really tough spot. Do you want to please the fans? Do you want to do a good movie for the people who want to come to see a good movie, who don't care about nostalgia and all that stuff? Or what do you do to move? Do you want to make it modern because you don't want to, so it's a tough spot to be in, honestly.
But is it really? Your audience is one or two type of people. You either have the people who grew up on this type of stuff, just comic book enthusiasts that know the history of these comics and these shows or what have you, and they want something, they just want to see that in live action. And then you have these new kids that are just mystified by these amazing new movies, and they don't know the history of this stuff. So everything, whatever you show them, that's new. That's something new and exciting. So you don't have to follow the source material to just to intrigue them, because it's all new to them. It basically comes down to what is the studio's objective. At the end of the day, it's about going to the bank, and they want to excite people. And it's mostly, these are superhero movies. They're for kids and what have you, and young adults and whatever. So, they just want to show something that's going to get the butts in the seat. I love these superhero movies and what have you, but it's getting to the point where, like, a lot of the stuff is just geared for a younger generation, and the jokes and stuff is missing with me. I'm like, now I'm starting to think, this is starting to get kind of corny.
That's exactly how I was feeling. I'm like, how many we don't seen? Then at 30 by now, and it's like, I get the joke, but it's not funny at this point.
Yeah, basically.
And it's like, and then as an older person, you want something that's a little more gripping, and you like, everybody gonna survive, or there's no real threat. Y'all don't did it so well and did it so often. Like, what's left, man? Spider-Man is so popular, so everybody family friendly or whatever. Everybody want to see Spider-Man. All you got to do is find a good villain and then interconnect the pieces in between. So they throw you a little Nick Fury because he's been a part of all these. So they throw Nick Fury in there, and they throw a little comedic. You got your Mary Jane, you got Spider-Man sidekick, and send them off on the adventure. Again, I didn't like that they also left the country, but I understand that New York is a very familiar set piece, especially in the Spider-Man universe. Everything happens there. So we want to switch it up and do like every other movie. And we go over to Europe, and we go to Prague, and we go in.
That's actually a good point now that you mention it, because I think that's exactly what they're trying to do, because this is the third reboot of the Spider-Man series.
Exactly.
Everything takes place in New York in the first two series.
Again, like we say in almost every review, special effects is never a problem. Well, I'm sorry, unless it's done too much. Well, I thought some of the CGI on this, some of the CGI I felt was not that great, and then I just think they gave us way too much. But then there were a lot of it that was really on point. And when he did those illusions, and that had me kind of second guessing a few points, because I'm like, well, if it's Spider-Man and this is happening, regardless of the illusion, why his spider senses ain't tingling or telling him where the real danger is at. And I think due to the holograph technology he was using, it threw his senses off of whack. So when he pulled him into a hologram, this dude was jacked up. It was doing all kind of funky stuff. It was done really well. And he proved to be a pretty bad villain. Somebody he was having troubles with because of that. He couldn't get his depth perception. He didn't know what he was really hitting or targeting. Didn't know if he was jumping or falling. So it caused some trouble for him.
Well, I think the whole Spidey sense, because now they're calling it Peter Tingle.
Yeah,
Which was kind of weird. Anybody knows anything about Spider-Man, they know it's the Spidey senses. But of course, a lot of these kids, it doesn't matter because they don't know anyway. It sounds like something gross to me, but whatever. Having his Peter Tingle go all out of whack, I thought that was just a plot device just to help him along with the story, because it wouldn't make sense if his spider senses, Peter Tingle was working correctly. It wouldn't have made sense because
Peter Tingle.
Exactly. It sounds gross. It sounds like somebody getting an erection, but he would have been able to figure out what was going on.
Exactly. He wouldn't have been that formidable if everything was working like it should.
And then, did they ever even explain why his
They did not.
Tingle?
They didn't go into detail of why it wasn't. It wasn't. Of course,
working.
in the third act, when he becomes the hero everybody need, he's able to focus and uses Peter Tingle like it should.
And then that was kind of weird because it's like, in every other form or version of Spider-Man, they'll show some kind of illustration to let you know that his spider senses are being alerted. But now it's like there's no way to even know. No way for the audience to know. He just does it. And that was kind of weird because it's like, let us in on it. I want to see him actually visualizing something that let him know that he's being alerted to danger. Which is crazy because now he's relying so much on the Stark technology. It's like, so what actually makes him Spider-Man? And in all other versions of Spider-Man, it's his spider senses, it's his super strength, it's his ability to climb on walls and stuff. It's his powers that are amazing and what have you. Now it seems like it's Stark technology that makes him amazing. So that's kind of weird. In every other version, he was more spider than tech driven.
Exactly, and yeah.
Now he's more so tech driven, which is cool. I'm not defecating on that. It's just that, it's something I'm not accustomed to, but
Right. A good point. You see Spider-Man because he's Spider-Man. He's Spider-Man because of his powers, and that's what you know about.
Right.
The web slinger. Well, not even that. Just the point that, the underlying theme of, we miss Iron Man. We looking for somebody to fill those shoes, and he feeling some kind of way because he don't think he can fill those shoes. I mean, like, you're not, in which the guy had to break it down. Like, you're not Tony Stark. You never will be. But you are Spider-Man, and you can be the best version of Spider-Man.
Which is good, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was one of the better parts of the story because, the morals and the lessons that you learn. And no doubt about it, this kid, we're dealing with a teenager, and he's still learning. And another thing, this whole thing was about moving on and living life after the snap.
Right. Which they call it the blip.
Oh, no, actually, it was still the snap. The blip is when everybody came back.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, right, because it blipped up. Like,
all this Marvel stuff, these movies, it's all about continuity. So now after we've had the end games, now we're going to be dealing with life after the end games. And that's what Spider-Man Far From Home is about. It's like now we're dealing with life after the blip, which is everybody coming back.
Right. And it's confusing, I know. But after 5 years went by, and now people came back. So the people who didn't get snapped away, they've aged. But the people who came back, they're the same age. So they call that effect the blip, and it's crazy. Yeah. But they kind of touch base on that and explore that a little bit. Like I said, confusing, don't make no sense. I'm like, if you snapped in, why the hell we ain't just... Whatever. I'm confused now.
Yeah. Now that you even saying it, because we didn't talk about it earlier, but now that you're saying it, I'm getting confused.
Man, we'll have a whole nother video just talking about that. I mean, Jesus.
So they're introducing love into these movies. There's always got to be a love interest.
Absolutely.
So Now you acting like that's a bad thing.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. But when that's half your damn plot, and I'm tired of it being a plot device, and we see it over and over again.
In this movie, it was seriously like half the plot. It's like half the movie is like Peter trying to hook up with Mary Jane. But you know, they already like each other, so like half the battle is already done. So why is it so difficult to just go them getting to know each other? They already know each other. 90% of that is already taken care of. It's just going at 10% and letting each other know how they feel and what have you. But I guess, you know, he got superhero work to do, and he acting like the most important thing in the world now is just to get to know Mary Jane. And the last movie, like, you didn't give a damn about the girl, so.
You can get snapped away, you can kick ass, you can well sling, you can go into space, but you having problems going and talking to a girl?
Yeah.
Come on, man. But then again, I guess that's multi-layered. You know, people, just because they can do this don't mean they're good at that, yada, yada, yada.
I don't know, because, you know, you would think the confidence that it would take to.
I know. But then again, that's an alter ego. That's a mask. That's a you know,
point.
He's hiding himself. That's him, but that's not the whole him. So he got a reality where he walks around being, you know, Joe Schmo, I'm a teenager. And then you got the guy I gotta be because everybody look up to me and this and that, you know. So it's a disguise, man. It's him, but is it really him?
Somewhat, I think they did somewhat a good job of showing teenage angst because, you know, there's like all kind of love issues going on. Like, you know, not only the main character, Tom Holland, and, you know, Zendaya, they have their little love thing going on, but then they're adding other love triangles in the mix. You got the guy in the chair, I think his name is Jacob Baskey. I'm sorry, bro. I know I screwed up your name, but now he has a love interest. It was really cool and really funny. I'm happy for him that he got a little screen time with his little baby. But then
yeah, like I said, that second half of the movie, especially the third act, it seemed to get a lot better. You know, there you focusing on him becoming what he need to be, and you know, it seemed like the plot all came together. The actors, you know, came together. Most of the action. I mean, it was action throughout the whole movie, but they really did it well in that part of, you know, going and taking on the main villain.
Spider-Man Far Away From Home, if I'm gonna have to rate it, I would probably rate the movie 3 out of 5 Maurices. It's a fun movie. I think, you know, nice summer movie, something that, you know, you take the kids to watch, but it's nothing that you gotta see, and nothing really significant, nothing that's gonna leave you, wow you.
I'm teetering between 2.5 and 3 myself. I mean, again, for the young adults and the younger kids, they will really enjoy it. I mean, it's enough to keep them busy, you know, all the lights and the flashes. But me as an adult and probably a diehard, you know, into this kind of stuff and kind of starting to get bored because of, you know, it's becoming monotonous. I feel kind of 2.5-ish, but for the kids and the younger audience, it's a 3. But again, you'll like it, you know, the second half especially the third act. You know, it was a solid movie.
That's how we felt about Spider-Man. We're going to go ahead and wrap up another edition of Recent Marvel Reviews for you. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us how you feel about it. Tell us how you feel about this movie. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let us know. Get out there, do your thing in the world, and don't let your distractions hinder your actions. This is Reese and Marvin. We out of here. Bye, everybody.
Mysterio.
That's body life, baby.